Okay, sorry, 1 second. It appears we are having an issue with Twitter.
It says live.
Maybe we are live.
Maybe live.
You're on the show. Hey guys.
Might be live. We could be.
We are now. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on a very, very special stream today where we're going to be diving into pretty much the biggest updates and developments that we have currently had for Fair. I am your host, Falcor. Thank you all again for joining us. And with me today, I have the two smartest people I know, Mr. Stan Kladko and Jack O'Halloran. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Let's do a brief little kind of intro for those of people that don't know you, and if you don't know them, what are you doing? How do you not know these guys? Let's throw things off with Stan. Stan, why don't you do a quick brief intro?
Yeah,
I'll throw it over to Jack.
I've been a co-founder of Scale now for, I don't even remember how many years. It's like
almost
how many
7 years. 7 years.
I don't even remember, frankly, the life before
Crypto
this.
time though, that's like 49 years.
It's very vague, actually, what happened to me before. But what I remember, actually, I was a scientist, actually, quite a long time. So I actually was a physicist, and I did my PhD in Germany. I did research in all kinds of different physics institutions at Los Alamos National Lab, in New Mexico, at Stanford University, in California. Then I was doing startups, and I did lots of startups. So pretty much, actually, my entire life, I was actually either doing science or startups. And I sold some of the startups and pretty much never worked for a large company. I think I only worked for a large company 2 years in my life. So I'm very kind of typical crypto guy. I don't really have interest to be part of a big system, I think. So that's why actually we are doing Scale, because we like it to be small and meaningful.
Definitely. And we've got a great, great team to do that. Jack, what about you?
Hey everybody, I'm the CEO and Stan's co-founder of Scale Labs. And yes, we've been doing this in dog years or crypto years, almost 50 years. In reality, not that long, but crypto time is different, right? Time is relative. So I started my career in Silicon Valley. I was a part of a few very successful exits. With good technology, we were acquired by Motorola. It was a mobile and cryptography business. And Stan actually ended up doing our cryptography certification, like all the way back in the mid 2000s. This was a long time ago. So we were both kind of working in this space tangentially prior to it ever, even the Bitcoin white paper existing. Then I've been starting companies in Silicon Valley. I started my first company in 2008, started an AI company and built it to be a global leading company in the software as a service AI space. Back when AI was not intelligent, to date myself, AI was pretty dumb back then. We shouldn't have called it AI. We should have called it something else. But, and then was a real crypto enthusiast for a long time, since 2011. And well, I was your annoying friend that would bug you and be like, you got to buy Bitcoin. You got to buy Bitcoin. My friends would be like, shut up about Bitcoin already. That was me. And then when I was starting my next company in 2017, it was a no brainer to do it in the crypto space. And I got introduced to Stan and we really hit it off and our brains came together. And that was kind of the genesis of Scale.
We got the business acclimate, the ridiculous, intelligent, PhD science man, and then you have me. I somehow am also here.
Very humble man, Falcor. He's a very humble man. He also he's a unique set of skills.
Very, very, very unique. Amazing. So, guys, thank you so much. Very, very busy gentlemen, as we have so much going on, across Scale and Fair. But, appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me as well as the community and the people that are interested in what's going on Fair. So let's, without further ado, kick things off. Let's start off with the development pieces and then we'll jump in over to the white paper stuff. So Stan, how about you just
Falco, before we do that, can we just, because we're going to give a lot of media updates, can we just like give some super high level thoughts first? I know I'm getting off script a little bit, but you know, 100%. I think it's interesting. Like we're learning a lot, and Stan, I don't know if you want to go first.
Absolutely. Actually, you know, I think it's we can go off script because I know that lots of people expect us to explain things slowly. We have pretty good number of people in the community on Twitter, by the way. Hey guys, and so I think if just explaining things slowly, I will start. I mean, the number one thing for me in this entire like why proof of encryption, I think people on Twitter now have these memes where they say, oh, crypto got stuck. You know, basically 2013 or 2015, people had lots of ideas, but probably mostly none of them got implemented. Like it's either speculation or hodling. So people either like hodl Bitcoin or speculate, but all of these other nice, super interesting applications didn't happen. And so we basically have the industry stuck. And if you look at blockchains, at layer one blockchains, pretty much there was a Bitcoin, big thing, right? Then there was Ethereum, also a big thing with smart contracts and stuff. And then that's it. Pretty much every other L1 after Ethereum is a copy of Ethereum, just a little faster and more centralized, right? There's very little difference. And so we are in this commoditization phase where on one hand, we don't really have much applications. We have speculation and we have hodling. And on the other hand, everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone is doing like a copy of Ethereum. So something is wrong. So the FAIR and proof of encryption comes from the idea that you need to break this deadlock, essentially, right? And the question is, how do you break the deadlock? You need to be able, like, if you specify this like in a single sentence, you need to be able to take any financial applications from Web 2 and move it to Web 3 in a week, right? Now you can do lots of things in a week because you have AI, right? You can actually have pretty much any Web 2 application now, including a bank, right? You can program it in a week now using AI. So you should also be able to take a Web 2 application like a bank, or for instance, something like you guys use in America, Jack, like Venmo or like Robinhood, or here in Europe, we use like other things. And you should be able to take this financial application from Web 2 and move it to Web 3 in a week. That's kind of the grand goal for FAIR. And then it kind of breaks the deadlock, because we're not talking just about speculation or hodling. We're talking actually about taking real life financial applications and moving them to Web 3. And so then you start looking, what do you need to do? What technology you need to be able to do it? And that's how we actually came up with FAIR, because first of all, it has to be an enabler technology. You need to enable people to do it. But then it has to be also simple. If you want to do it in a week, if you want to move from Web 2 to Web 3 in a week, it has to be easily accessible for developers. So we're trying to basically have this balance where it's simple, but it's working, and it has good security, and it's also fast for us to implement. We don't want to wait like for another like couple of years. We want this now. So that's where we are. And if I compare this to what we discussed last time, I think during the last couple of months, we actually became even more certain that it's possible to reach the goal, and we actually have more ideas now, more technology. Everywhere we have more. But the core, and we kind of started with MEV resistance with one application of encryption. But now we're just saying it's going to be a proof of encryption for everything. It will be being able to hold confidential data encrypted on blockchain. And with this feature, you break the deadlock. So with this feature, you take any financial application, you take a Bank of America, and you should be able to take all of the features, all of the UI, don't throw away anything, and get exact copy, exact same user experience, including privacy. So when you use a Web3 bank, you should not be able to even understand this. It should look and feel like a Web2 bank. The only difference, it should be on one blockchain. And because it's on blockchain, it's not like you wake up in the morning and your bank doesn't have any money and like it basically is bankrupt and you lose your money. Because on blockchain, all of the money, you see it on the blockchain. So you get essentially the advantages of a regular bank, but you have the security of blockchain. So that's where we are at the moment. We're pretty excited about this. And I think once we have the fair, we will be able to take all of these new financial applications and build them on Web3.
Yeah, Stan, because Stan and I, our brains are like, we've been working together for a long time. We're kind of like on the same zone. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because what I've found is, same thing that back in 2018, 2019, there's this group of people in this that were like the most arrogant, confident people in the world about how blockchain technology would evolve and how this technique was better than that technique. And these people are kind of like have this group think, and they really like siloed into two camps. They siloed into this like roll up camp, and they argued about all these little nuances of which minuscule change would make roll ups a little bit better. And then there are the L1 people that were just like big machines, fast L1 next, and the reality is these people in hindsight, like, were very wrong. And like, these people that thought they knew everything, you look at them, well, look at all the investments they made. Look how many things didn't pan out. Look how many of these chains and these systems that they funded that like no one even uses. Right. And so Stan's right. We're at this point of a gridlock. We're at this innovation gridlock. But what I've been seeing lately is all the smart people I'm talking to, are talking about two things: privacy and MEV. Okay. So when it comes to the next generation of blockchain, so we've solved the trilemma. The trilemma is pretty much solved. That's like speed, security, decentralization. These three things pull against each other. You have to give trade-offs. Well, we've come up with good systems now. We're pretty good. We've got fast EVM, fast, SVM, fast blockchains that, are still, pretty well decentralized, very secure and very fast, and like very, low cost too. But now the next thing is like, you look at like, let's just call that like performance. And then you look at privacy and you look at compliance. These things all pull against each other. And, you look at Tornado Cash in terms of like, they're very private, but they were not very compliant. That thing, has a ton of issues. The future, banks are not going to be using Tornado Cash. They need to use compliant privacy systems. Okay. They need to be also, they can't give up performance. They still need speed. They still need low costs. They need all these things to happen. But the next frontier is frankly compliant privacy. That also, guess what? It helps protect end users from MEV. And that's kind of as we've been going on this journey, like the big aha for me has just been, we started thinking, wow, look how much money is lost to MEV a year. That's our goal. Guess what? That's a drop in the bucket compared to the market share that's not being addressed right now. There's so many businesses, so much institutional capital, so much banking business that just, our DeFi market is 1/1000th the size it could be because we don't have privacy. And we have MEV that blocks new functionality. So we're opening up new functionality, and it is like, you can ask yourself, why are we doing this? Well, one, this is the next step. It's the next major transformation. And it also is the sibling network to Scale. Okay. Like, this is going to be a Scale burning machine. Scale is also not mid-curve. Scale doesn't do basic stuff. Scale is this gas-free behemoth for gaming and high volume apps. That's still going to exist and serve that market. And it'll be complemented, instead of with Ethereum sucking up all the value, with Fair that's actually going to the next level and taking this, to the heights that we're trying to go to. Because Stan and I don't do, and the team and all the builders around here, we're not here to do mid-curve stuff and be average. We're not trying to be mediocre. We're trying to change the world. And that's our goal here.
Mediocrity is the killer of innovation, some would say. There's a quote, something like that. I can't actually quite remember what it was. It is something like that. But no, yeah, I mean, from your guys' point, right? There are so many different Ethereum forks that realistically do the same thing, whether they're L2s, L3s, L4s, you know, that are just Ethereum. They don't actually bring anything new to the table. If anything, they provide almost worse services. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to transfer tokens from an L3 to an L1 before. Takes about a month. Not the most enjoyable experience. While, you know, what we're doing here is something that is trying to push the needle. It's trying to push the narrative, and it's trying to actually, you know, bring institutions on board. There is interest from, you know, some of the top institutions in the world to jump into the world of blockchain, but they have certain criterias that they need to be met before they can do that, one of which being privacy. And
you know, here's a good example, real world example. Let's say I send Stan $20 USDC on a blockchain, and it's a neobank using it. Well, then Stan, let's say Stan's my neighbor, and he's like, hey, look how much money Jack has in his account. Or like, maybe it's embarrassing. Maybe I don't have much, or I have a lot. And then he tells somebody else. Next thing you know, I'm like, you know, I have security issues or like reputation issues, right? But right now you can't send somebody USDC from an account without everyone knowing what's in the account. So how can bank accounts leverage stablecoin payments in a direct manner that's on chain? They can't do it because of the privacy component. And
to add, just to add one sentence to what you said, I think like people say, oh, it has to be all public. People need to be able to see everything. In fact, when Satoshi Nakamoto invented blockchain, right? It's not like he wanted everyone to see everything. It's just he was trying, or she, right, or them. They tried to produce the simplest system possible just for the thing to run, because it was the first ever blockchain. So they produced this blockchain which has everything public, but it makes no sense at all that for the rest of our lives we need to have everything public on blockchain, because if you look, blockchain is just a product and people just want some features and people want privacy. I don't want really, like, if I buy like a can of Coke, every person in the world to see it. Makes no sense. So,
you know,
and the reason, it was like, it was necessity. That's why that information would be public, because there's no way that miners, and in our case, proof of stake networks validators, could ensure the information was accurate without seeing all the information, letting other people see the information. With advanced cryptography, they can actually ensure things are accurate and secure without giving all the information to everybody. That's the holy grail. It's a new trilemma, Stan. We gotta start calling it. It's like a next trilemma, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm going to run a poll on Twitter, like, for people, because some people say, oh, like, I have some people on Twitter saying things like, oh, it has to be all public. And I'm just trying to literally, like, have them face the question, why does it have to be public? I mean, what purpose does it serve? I understand, like, blockchain was independent and it's like no one controls it, right? But there's actually no argument why everything has to be public. And people have something in their brains, because I think maybe because just everything is a copy of Ethereum, they want to go to Block Explorer and see everything. I don't want, when I buy like a can of Coke, I don't want people to see it on Block Explorer, right?
Yeah, and you know, Stan, it's very true. It's, you know, it's what cracks me up is this, like, there's this army of people that believe in that, but they don't get what you're talking about. And these believers are the zero knowledge proof people. But the funny thing is, the use cases they talk about are, oh, I could be at a bar and show my ID, a QR code to the bouncer and prove I'm 21 without them seeing how old I am. Well, guess what? Who gives a shit? Okay, a bouncer knows how old you are. Not a good use case. What's a good use case? Oh, I want to buy a can of Coke and not everyone know I bought a can of Coke, or I want to send someone money and not know people know how much money is in my bank account, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there's some real use cases, and then you go into DeFi. There's some big use cases, which I think were addressed really well in the white paper. If you're wondering how these things can be utilized, go check out the white paper.
Yeah, totally. It's just like, and it actually also, I think, explains another thing which no one talks about. But there's absolutely no way to buy anything except maybe on darknet. You cannot buy anything for crypto. Like if I want today to go to buy like socks, whatever, just anything I buy on Amazon, there's nothing you can buy on crypto. People don't use crypto for buying things, and one of the reason is because if everything I buy is public, if every store I go to, every transactions I make, every item I buy is public, it's not what people want. So this entire kind of e-commerce, crypto e-commerce has also been totally stuck. There are no stores, right? You cannot use it for anything. So
it's interesting, and I'm actually going to quote something from the original Bitcoin white paper, which is kind of oversight from the Satoshi. Is on page 6 with regards to privacy. It says, as an additional firewall, a new key pair should be used for each transaction to keep them from being linked to a common owner. So in the original Bitcoin white paper, Satoshi is suggesting that for every transaction you use a new wallet, which obviously is, when we're talking about trading in DeFi, is unsustainable. And this was inherently his original idea. It was a full private and unable to detect and follow back to the original owner blockchain. And it's just, as things began to progress and people began to use it more and more and more, and we're seeing hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, millions of transactions a day, you can't have a wallet for every single transaction. So how do we mitigate that? And that is with Byte and Fair Blockchain.
Yeah. Hey guys, by the way, we build in public. We're very transparent about things. Like this trilemma, I just thought of that on the fly. We should take some time to think of a better, like, what is the new trilemma when privacy is component of that? Stan, like we should like put some real thought into that, because it's a model people get. And it is the next thing. Before, no one was looking for privacy because they didn't think you could even do it, right? It was just decentralization, performance, security. We're in a new paradigm. It's a new world.
I mean, there's stories out there right now, guys in Paris, guys in Germany, getting taken hostage for their Bitcoin and for their crypto wallets, and how do they find that? They find a wallet address, they see how much money's in it, they reverse engineer where all those transactions came from, find their identity, and there you go. It isn't just keeping things private, it's also keeping yourself safe.
Totally. And people on exchanges are private. It's like, I think it's one of the reasons decentralized exchanges are doing so bad. Like I found this interesting number. You can ask ChatGPT, but basically centralized exchanges are making, the revenue of all centralized exchanges annual is about $40 billion in fees. And that's because people trade mostly on centralized exchanges, because on centralized exchanges, you have your privacy, right? And then on the decentralized exchange, so everywhere, I think, pretty much, like, is it e-commerce? The thing is like stuck. And funny enough, no one is actually talking about this. I think one of the reasons is just that there are so many copies of Ethereum. And I understand, like investors, I understand people, it used to be like pretty safe bet. You create another L1 and you say, okay, it's a copy of Ethereum, but it runs faster. And here's this magic algorithm, and it worked, right? And that's why it worked so many times that people kept on doing this, and it came to the point where it's totally illogical. You have many already running, many coming, like people like but the cycle is getting shorter. Every single new thing pops up, the attention span is shorter, and there's another thing, and so I feel that that's the end of it. And it was a nice run for like layer ones, which were copies of Ethereum, but now they're commoditized. It's just something to move on.
And like traditional startups, you have this like 10x improvement benchmark where you're not going to get funding for a new idea, or you're not going to sell anything to anybody unless it's 10 times better than the thing they already have, because it takes a lot of time and effort to move. And you see this actually playing true in crypto. are people switching off of Ethereum? Are they switching off of other things right now? They're not, because there's no major difference.
Yeah.
In gaming, Scale has a 10x difference because there's chain fees, not gas fees. That's why we beat people, 10 times the size of us, or projects 10 times the size of us all the time. But with privacy, we can be 10x better and still provide EVM compatibility. And it's maybe more than a 10x advantage. Like maybe it's a 100x advantage. If you can
totally. Like it's like I watched video of Moned. I like Moned. They're great guys, by the way. But I watched the video of Moned, and it was a great video. But the founders, they found a great guy, and the founder was like, "Okay, we have a very fast Ethereum compatible blockchain that has like 1 zillion TPS, and that's it." And like, what? Okay, it's great, guys, but you have like $250 million. Like, why don't you try to do something more interesting? And it's just like, it's boring. It's not like, I understand why people are doing it. It's because it's very safe. They consider it used to be very safe, but it's just a little meaningless now. Just there's no differentiation. And I talk to some other people, like wallet people. Wallet people say, okay, all of these guys are commoditized. Users won't even see them because they are commoditized. We will actually hide all of these layer ones from users. They just copies of each other. Why even so this basically becomes like totally like low profit business in the sense that there's no difference. There's a huge competition. And so I think we did the right thing we totally made the decision to get out of this type of thing.
Yeah. It's we kind of saw the same thing with AI, right? Over the past even couple of months, we had ChatGPT, the biggest one. We saw Gemini appear, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, and so many new innovative AI models and programs, and it's just everyone's pushing each other, right? Within that industry, you have Claude started to take off, and then X released Grok code, and Google released dev.google.ai, right? And everyone is pushing and pushing and pushing the envelope to be more innovative than their competitors, which we unfortunately haven't seen in blockchain, right? And I hate the bubble analogy, but there are lots and lots of projects out there and chains that are kind of in this bubble of raise money, give projects grants, and then that's it. There's no real innovation, there's no real kind of onboarding or just kind of interest. As an FYI, me and Stan had this idea where I was going to be a little. I didn't put them on. I was going to be a bit of counter, bit against the grain on what I normally am. Kind of forgot to put my sunglasses on, but I have a character. We've got lots of progress that can be made, and we are making that progress. So if you're out there, catch up or get left behind.
Yeah.
All right. So should we talk about the development updates? I felt like
let's do it.
We had to. I mean, we haven't talked to it for a while. We needed to give some every day we're learning so much. We're building this. We're talking to developers. We're pushing this forward, and it's been pretty exciting.
100%. All right. We're gonna speed run it. Stan, talk to me. What's been some kind of big picture developments that the team's accomplished?
Absolutely. And I'll actually start by answering another question. People on Twitter keep on saying, "Oh, you guys have this, but other guys also have it." For MEV and for encryption, there are some other projects that claim they have it. But that's why when we started, it's important that when we say that we have proof of encryption, to put this goal that someone should be able to have one single week, and in a week move from Web 2 to Web 3 financial application. Why? Because it actually basically sets you the limits of being easy and simple for programmers, for developers. So when someone like people produce this moon math solutions with mathematics, even PhDs in mathematics don't understand. You know, you have the ZK stuff, they're great people, but in reality, many of the things with ZK, you have like a handful of PhD mathematicians in the world understanding how it works, right? So if you give ZK to a regular developer, it's usually basically like it's like a brick wall. It's impossible to get through. So that's why when people tell me, we have this, we have that, they have this, they have that, I'm asking them how simple it is. Because it's not, if it's not simple, if it's not accessible to a regular developer, it's actually equivalent to not existing. And that's why when people attack me sometimes on Twitter, when I say, like Fair is the first and only encrypted blockchain, people tell me, oh, there are other chains. And I'm telling them, no, I think it's, when I say first and only, I mean something which is useful. If you have a solution which requires you to be like a top 10 PhD in mathematics in the world, it's just unusable for developers. So I don't count these things. So we actually really push for simplicity. And that's why development on our side is actually pretty hard, because we need to always evaluate, it has to be accessible by developers. So we have phase 1 now, it's fully running, which is MEV resistance. It's super simple for developers. You don't have to learn anything. That's why actually when people tell me, okay, we have other MEV solutions, I'm telling them, how hard is it to use? In our case, it's transparent. You don't have to even know about it. Everything which you run on Fair is MEV resistant. And then we have now phase 2, which is actually starting to encrypt things. Mm-hmm. And we've published the document, the spec for phase 2, and we are prototyping it now. And we're targeting somewhere in October for the prototype.
Hey, Stan, let me prompt you with a question, because I think it'll be helpful for people, because this is something you taught me about Fair. Mm-hmm. So these other strategies, they build things basically just to be able to stop MEV, right?
Right.
But what we're building, actually, MEV is just the tip of the spear, because we're using these secure enclaves and different cryptographic techniques that we can actually do a lot more. So MEV isn't the end goal. These other people, they solved MEV. They didn't. They maybe solved one thing, but they are not going to be able to do all the other things, because their recipe is very different, and it's complicated. It sucks for the developer and the end user, but
absolutely. And actually, the reason why is it's actually historic, because from the beginning, one thing which we had that no one else had was that our consensus was well written and specified. People like run Tendermint, and then they speed it up, and they don't document how they actually speed it up, and then it just becomes software without specification. So if you have software without specification, and in many cases people run someone else's consensus, so you have all of these layer 1 chains, and most of these guys, look at Monad. They don't have their own consensus, right? They're using some consensus with some other guys developed, and these other guys developed it from other guys. So the one thing about Scale, which is unique, we have our own thing, which is well documented. So if we want to add encryption to our consensus, we can find the document and find where we plug it in. While if someone else, like Monad, wants to add encryption, they won't be able to do it just because their consensus is not documented, and they didn't even produce it. So that's really the thing, because we actually have our own things, we're able to add this encryption. And we started with MEV, but when we looked, we understood that we can actually plug in encryption in the universal way. So essentially, you have your Solidity smart contracts. You can just add the decryption and encryption functions. And you can also add sharing re-encryption function when it's encrypted, but then you encrypt it to the public key of another person. If you want to share your document with someone else, it's encrypted, but now you add the key of this person to the document. So because of all of these things, we actually are the only blockchain, that actually pushes encryption into the foundation of blockchain. It's not like we build it separately. we push it into the consensus, it becomes organic part of the consensus. And because of the organic part, you can actually use it for anything. You can use it for MEV. It doesn't really matter. You can use it to encrypt your stablecoin bank account. You can use it to encrypt a document. So it becomes really simple. And because we actually control consensus, not any other solution, there's not any other solution in the world where people control consensus, control blockchain, and then they plug encryption in. What other people do, they just create some kind of ugly separate thing which somehow interacts with blockchain, which does just a single thing, doesn't do everything. It just so it becomes incredibly hard to use. It's ugly, and it's actually unusable for most developers. So most developers just like simplicity. They just like to be able to say decrypt and it decrypts. So that's actually our strength. And ironically, we thought that was our strength before, but we always have been saying that, our consensus it's our consensus, it's fast, and it's well documented and provable. And it didn't actually give us so much advantage because people didn't care, frankly.
Mhm.
But now, actually, it enables us to plug encryption because we control it. And other people cannot plug encryption because it's not their consensus. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We don't even have engineers for it, right? Let's say the L1s, you have these people launching new L1s, and it all comes from Tendermint. It's all kind of different, like flavors of Tendermint. This Tendermint, that Tendermint. It's like hot stuff, that stuff. They tweak this way, they tweak other way. But most L1s don't even have engineers that actually know how the consensus works. So this actually advantage that we have, we can use for proof of encryption. And actually, that's why when we realized that this gives us so much advantage, we decided to kind of go full speed into this. Essentially, FAIR is encrypted blockchain, not just MEV, not just this or not just that. We're just going like full speed. We're breaking free.
And it's almost like to put this in an analogy that it's not technical for people to like really get. Imagine there are a bunch of delivery trucks, and their job is to deliver packages to people, and then someone says, that's like the core baseline technology. It's just trucks delivering packages. Well, these other people say, hey, we came up with this idea that will not let the delivery men know where you live. And so, but they have to drop it off at this other site. And then at that other site, somebody's got to go pick it up and then bring it over there. And no one knows that that's a delivery truck. It's just a regular car. But then every time you do that, you got to, figure out this plan to like bring it over to the other site, have it delivered, where they're basically adding another layer on top of a core function for privacy. Whereas what FAIR is, the delivery trucks themselves can deliver without knowing and do their jobs perfectly without knowing where they drop stuff off at. They could just kind of close their eyes and it automatically drives and drops stuff off. And because we're actually plugged into the foundational level, we can do a lot more. Because if you're not, you're really limited. Because at the end of the day, these delivery trucks, if they can see everything, you're just limited to your functionality, and you have a lot more complexity in terms of executing privacy.
Yeah, just another example, Jack. It's a great example, actually, you brought. But I just give another example. Like I'm using now this MacBook, and people used to have this applications that would encrypt files, right? You have some like sensitive file, and it's kind of ugly. You encrypt it, you have a password, and now people don't use these applications. Why? Because Apple has encryption embedded into the operating system, OS. So I have this MacBook, I can set whatever, the hard drive is already encrypted. I don't even know, because it's so deep in the foundation, it's encrypted. And then people from FBI get a MacBook, they are not able to decrypt it because it's plugged in. So, like on iPhone, the same stuff. So there's a huge difference between if iPhone or MacBook encrypts files at the foundational level, you don't even know this. But if FBI comes, FBI cannot like unlock like an iPhone, right? It's pretty strong. Or you have to use like an app to do it. It's just the level of complexity jumps up so much. And so that's why we're not really scared about the competition, because when these guys are like just adding these add-ons, like ugly apps on top, and we just plug things in the foundation, our competitive advantage it's so high, frankly, we don't really care about them. And then from our perspective, that's why we don't have competitors.
Yeah.
Because it just, if you can do it in the foundation, doing it like as an add-on, it's just not competitive at all. It's not going to work.
Yep.
You are not on our level. That is what he is saying. Get on our level.
Right. Yeah.
That's why, you know, it's proof of encryption. Anybody could use it. You know, we're opening Byte protocol up to people. You know, you're going to have to be able to build it. It's really complicated, but it's I think proof of encryption is the next frontier, and blockchains and proof of encryption means you actually have encryption at that base level. It's at the hard drive level or at the core delivery truck level. Your consensus mechanism operates with a encrypted manner. Okay, that's in kind of the simplest way possible to put it. Where other blockchains, their consensus mechanism and the way their validators message and gossip and communicate and build blocks, there's zero privacy. People are just trying to like layer on, you know, apps on top of that to make that encrypted.
Yeah. And, you know, talking about apps and, you know, kind of these new, you know, potential milestones, you know, what does this mean for, you know, users and developers and new institutions that could come on board?
Well, I'll give you some of our learnings in DeFi, and this has really taken off a lot. You know, we first started doing this, we were actually calling it Playa. And we were like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun and, you know, fair, fast, fun, and fair. And guess what? We're going to save end users lots of money. And we started talking to people, and they're like, you know what? Normal people don't care about MEV. They lose 2 cents there, 5 cents there. They don't care. Then we started talking to these builders, and they're like, well, oh my gosh, you can encrypt these things? Well, you realize all the other things I could do? I could have limit orders. I could have indexes that rebalance. I can have agentic AI that's going to trade all day because my AI agent cares because it's going to do 50 to 1,000 times more trades as that normal person. And the cost of MEV is massively higher. Other people saying, well, I want to have encrypted strategies on chain. I want to make, you know, advanced logic be closer to the point of execution instead of having to just live off chain in a private area. I can have that in a public area while maintaining privacy. We have other people saying, hey, I'm starting a neobank. I can't do this today because if my user sends X amount to somebody else through their wallet, their neighbor knows how much money they have. And they're launching in a developing country that, you know, has, you know, there'd be a lot of security risks if your neighbors know how much money you have, and they just can't do that. So there's so many use cases that exist when you can add privacy without again impacting performance or compliance.
Amazing. Yeah, it really does, like, you know, opens the doors to a new horizon, right? You know, one of the things that I was talking to Sawyer about, and this would be for scale, not necessarily fair, is you know, encrypted data transfer, right? So documents. You know, you don't want to put it in a Google Drive. You don't want to put it in a Dropbox or something like that. You could send that document over scale, and, you know, have the recipient be able to open it and view it. And
yeah, no centralized intermediary that, you know, has it forever.
Yeah, you just through the blockchain, and then
so many use cases.
There's actually also, Falcor, there's actually also a twist, like a licensing twist to what you're saying. So actually, you can, it's also about like licensing documents. Let's say, I published some top like toy use cases on Twitter. One of the use cases is like, I have like super clever prompt for AI, and people want to reuse my prompt. It's happening all the time now, right? Someone creates a meme, and people want to have the prompt for this meme. So basically what I do, I publish the meme, but the prompt is published encrypted. And then if you come and pay me like $1 USDC, you get the prompt. So So the encryption actually enables lots of licensing, be able to sell things, like sell information, sell data, like in this example, sell prompts. And so there's also like another really toy use case, but we have like now this social incubator, and I came up with this idea. Maybe I'll just do a prototype of it myself. So basically, it's like you're at a restaurant, and you have the QR code, like the menu, and each time essentially you mine crypto when you post the QR code to the menu, to the blockchain, and then essentially you have a crowdsourced database of all menus of all restaurants in the world, which is really nice. You can actually look at the price of what they sell today without like going there. And so for this type of so basically this is crowdsourced twist, which actually is crypto is really great about this crowdsourcing, because blockchain is a great way to crowdsource. But for this crowdsourcing example, like the toy example with the QR code, it's super important that when I submit the QR code, it goes encrypted, because otherwise someone will gonna front run me and submit before me, and this person will mine the currency. So for crowdsourced applications, so you have applications where essentially people doing something around the world and doing something useful, like in this example, a QR code, and then blockchain actually regulating this. Encryption is super important because they're doing something, they're submitting results of their work. It has to be encrypted. So licensing and crowdsourcing, that are more like toy examples. I think like stablecoin bank is like very like, this is something which needs to happen now, especially with all of the stable coins. This is like a use case which everyone wants, this like stable coin bank. But also there's like a more fun use cases, which also I think are meaningful.
Yeah. I can't remember who I was talking to, but we had this idea of like an anonymous question and answer that you only get the answer revealed if you like pay to get it revealed. So like you could do like a $5 and it like reveals the answer, and it would all be stored because it's almost in its own little bubble that it's encrypted on chain. You can never change it.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea, because you know how big the industry is of like all of the polls and marketing, because people need to be able to ask people questions, like consumers, this information. And it could also be paired with some type of a lottery. We've been discussing this with Jack, that the incentives in this type of protocols, you have I'm a consumer and I want to answer a question, and you pay me like 10 cents. Well, I may or may not answer the question, but if I have a chance to win like a car, then I answer it. So we've been discussing it internally that some of these like crowdsourced protocols actually may work better when there's some type of a lottery element to it, where it's not like you're paying a little to everyone, but you actually have this jackpot, and and then people just would actually use it more, So it's like I think all of the consumer like marketing uses some types of lottery exactly because of that, because people are actually drawn more to things when it's a bigger, but like a chance for a bigger win. But what you are saying is actually very useful, because in this example is the same, right? You want to study the market, you ask people a question, and then they every time they answer, they get paid. But for you to get the answer, you need to pay to them. That has to be encrypted. So they encrypt, then you pay them, and it's decrypted. But it's also crowdsourcing. It's also, I think, goes to the same thing, that it's like almost like between DeFi and the games, because it's crowdsourcing essentially it's kind of a little bit of a game, but you create something useful and you get paid. So it's kind of in a between like just playing games and like trading, right? So crowdsourcing is a great example, and I think it's definitely something that will happen in the future at some point.
Yeah, so many applications and so many amazing potential use cases that can come from this. So like finally kind of hitting it off with the dev updates, Dan, is there anything for the people to look forward to, be excited about?
We had this huge thing, actually, all of these crypto algorithms actually pretty slow. I mean, one of the reasons they were so slow because we, in many cases, we are the first ever people to use these crypto algorithms. So we're using open source algorithms. For instance, we're using threshold decryption. No one ever used it for. I mean, it's an academic thing. It's a great thing, but in many cases, we're taking this academic thing and it's never been used. So people didn't spend so much time optimizing it because no one's. It's on GitHub, but it hasn't been used so much, right? So we actually have been optimizing lots of the stuff, and for decryption, we actually hit pretty significant wall that decryption was running really slowly. And Sydney, one of our engineers, actually spent several months optimizing it in many ways. And now we're actually at a pretty good point. We're doing about 1,000 decryptions per second now. So the decryption is not going to be a bottleneck for release 1. And in the future, we will know how to do it even faster. But the speed is also incredibly important for us because we want to be as fast as other fast layer ones. And people ask me, how fast? And I think also depends on the usage. For version 1, realistically needs to have multiple hundreds of TPS, and then we can go into thousands. So we do have a little bit of a lag because when we announce the chain, there will be some usage and the usage will grow. So it's okay for us to release early and then optimize. So but with this threshold decryption, it was a major step because I think now we are sure that it's going to run fast. So it's going to run as fast as other EVM compatible blockchains, like Monet, for instance, right? But we're not Monet because Monet is just a copy of Ethereum, right? And we are. I mean, I actually posted to Jack this screenshot from Chris Dixon from A16Z. He posted the thing when he said, great technologies, they start as toys. People like toying with them because they don't understand the potential. Also, initially, everything is slow, ugly. So you start with a toy, but somehow the toy grows. So this encryption stuff, I hope it also will be like a toy like this. So people start playing. They realize ultimately that FAIR has in many ways nothing to do with Ethereum because it's encrypted.
I just had the greatest idea ever.
Okay.
No, it's actually so good that I'm not even going to say it. Just think treasure hunt, and that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, and I think what we want is a playground of innovation, people using and building these things, and frankly, there will be toys and games that use this that eventually pave the way for the next big global banks to use stuff like this. Okay, so it'll be, and sometimes the toy itself ends up becoming the big game changer. Like the PC is a good example. Like personal computers were just toys. Toys for enthusiasts, and then you could do fun things with each other. And next thing you know, email and the internet and these things that just frankly change the world happen because of toys.
Yeah, no, 100%. Wait, really? The internet and stuff was toys?
So what I'm saying is what Stan sent me, the Chris Dixon premise. Everyone should look it up. That all the major technological advances started really as toys. So when people were make personal computers, it was a toy. It was a fun game was a fun thing you could play with. You weren't using it to do your job. Okay. But now because of the personal computer, that opened up our utilization of the internet and other core technologies like email and store, documents and all the things we use computers for. But it started off not I didn't use it to go do my job. I used it to maybe play some games with friends or send them messages and kind of dink around. It was
wasn't the handheld mobile phone designed off of something from Star Trek?
Yeah, that's another one of the things in this, and there's a book about this, and phones initially were just toys too. They were advanced walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
And then we're oh, well, maybe we could just have one, remember I don't know, you're not old enough, Falcor, but Stan and I are. Where they used to call them car phones before they called them cell phones, because people just have them in their car and they'd be like plugged into the car, for the power.
Oh, that's awesome. So what I'm hearing is what we need to do is let kids ideate the technology of the future.
Yeah, teenagers. I mean, I actually told it we have our Rick Thompson, our great friend, and he was he's a great investor and also entrepreneur in gaming, and we just talked to him about that. Is that like a perfect candidate is like a teenager somewhere in India, whatever, in Brazil, like a guy, like a teenage guy, developing something and actually using it as a toy with his friends. Usually this thing actually, because you need to pick up how the next generation thinks. They think differently.
Yeah.
So actually, we're launching the social-fi incubator. By the way, Jack, I think, is going to talk more about this. But that's exactly, we want to play with things and see if they can go viral.
Yeah.
And that's really how Base and Solana got a lot of their usage from. Let's be honest, Pump.fun was for fun. It was like a a toy gamification thing, launching meme coins and doing these fun things, and then and look at Base and all the SocialFi products that were there. But if you look at Scale and Fair, we're very uniquely positioned to execute on SocialFi. But SocialFi is what gets people. It's where virality is built in to finance and social mechanics fun. I also think this is kind of like big talk. AI is going to really change the way we use our free time over the next 5 to 10 years, and definitely the longer horizon. So if you look at it, if AI will really replace a lot of the work people are going to do, and humanity is going to have all of a sudden 100 billion new workers working for us for free, that are AI agents, guess what? Disposable income is going to go up. GDP is going to go up. Guess what are people going to do with their time? They're looking to have fun and bet their money and spend their money. That's why you kind of see this already happening. But AI is going to really put the gas on that. And, you look at new technologies like this, that's how you get people to go use them. And eventually then they just start using kind of the, the boring banking apps, but they got to you start with the fun.
Yeah. We love the fun. That's all. Yeah. It's all I do. Just try to think of fun things. For example, I'll leak it now. I'm working on this, fantasy draft.
Yeah.
But for tokens.
Oh, wow. That's a fun thing.
So you set up daily, weekly, monthly kind of leaderboards, and then but you do it off of tokens, and token price determines the number of points that you get, and then you can do these leagues, and it's
scores. That's
who's the best trader, but you're not actually having to put money in. So it's a way to kind of teach you about trading and things like that, and get more people.
And you have to build a team, i.e. a portfolio. Yeah.
You get you get 6 different you get 6 different tokens that you can build into your team. It's I'm working on it. It takes time. Cool. Yeah, Jack. So, honestly, we've actually gone through so much already.
Yeah, I think we hit a lot of the points in our conversation. So, should we just hit big, we're at the end of the hour, couple major thoughts, closing thoughts?
Yeah. Let's do that. What is your guys' closing?
I think we got to give this a second. Do you have an idea, Stan? Go for it if you're ready.
Yeah, I just want to summarize a little. I think if I could actually explain people what changed since our last conversation, I think we made this decision to just go full speed into proof of encryption. So it's actually we are breaking away from public blockchains, and we are actually building a unique product. As we discussed, maybe some of these applications initially will be fun toy applications, but we are moving fully into this experimental direction where we're going to be alone, frankly. No one else is doing it. So that's the decision we made. And I think the great thing about Scale is that we have a very small team of people, but we have very enthusiastic people. And also, frankly, we don't spend so much money. So another project probably wouldn't be able to make such a huge, bet on the new technology, because, you just have to keep on paying people. and you have to having budget, right? But in our case, we can do it, and so we actually taken this very bold step. And the only thing not the only thing, but the major thing that changed, we decided to be way bolder. So if you read the white paper, it now talks it talked about MEV. Now we're talking about proof of encryption, and this means everything. This means literally that, being able to do privacy for Web3 exactly in the same way as Web2. And that's the most important thing for us at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, Stan, I agree with that. And good points. I think for me, what I want to just kind of close with is to say, one of our investors or one of Scale Labs investors, one of the VCs behind Scale, Mike Maples, has a great quote, $1 billion secrets, or it's a blog post. So check it out. What it is like the $1 billion ideas, which now I probably need to call them like 20 billion, $100 billion, like the big things that like really, really make an impact are secrets initially, because if everyone knew that thing was going to be the thing that was that successful, everyone would do it. And so when you have one of these billion or $50 billion secrets, $100 billion secrets, you're going to be the minority of people that are like solving that problem because you know something other people don't know. And what I've found is, as we've been like kicking around and talking to other people, what we're finding is like this is like one of those zones that the smartest people are kicking around trying to figure this out right now. Most of them, just they have good intentions. They're just not part of the core protocol team. They're not part of the blockchain team. So they have to do it on top of the blockchain. They can't go and be like, "Hey, Solana, can you change all your code?" No, they have to build things that go on top of Solana that are permissionless. If you're a core protocol team building this stuff like we are, we can actually do things at a deeper level. But what we're seeing here is like this is, it's fun and it's also frustrating because you're sitting on this like amazing thing and you're trying to get people to pay attention. I think what's really going to push us forward too is just now that the white paper is out, I think I'm going to try to get it in front of some really smart people and get people opining, because that's when you kind of like, people, it's the next layer. They can go and dig in deeper. They can start playing with testnet already. So this thing's becoming real, and it's exciting because it's such a game changer that's still not being talked about that much. It is amongst like the right circles, but go on your main Twitter feed, you're going to be not reading about that, 20% of the time or even 2% of the time. So anyways, we're excited. It's a community project. It takes involvement from a lot of people. I just want to say thanks to all the people that work on Scale, that contribute, that participate, that run nodes, that do testing, that build, like that are involved with social, involved with the community on Twitter. Like this project's nothing without all of you. It really is a community project, and hey, thank you. Let's keep pushing forward.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you guys so much for taking the time, hanging out. Apologies for running over, but this was a great chat. Never doing a run a show again, because this was better as just a free-flowing conversation.
You gotta do them, otherwise we'll have all this pressure to come up with things to talk about.
Oh, amazing. Jack, Stan, thank you guys so much, and all of you who are listening in. We're actually about to go jump into a game night. I'm 5 minutes late for it.
Okay.
Come head over to our Discord and come hang out. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.